Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our series. In this episode, we're going to be talking about maximizing your schedule. And Dr. Ron Meeker is going to be giving us some great ideas on things that you can do in your practice. The next step when we think about this, what is our next step? And it's all about scheduling. So, I'm going to kind of let Dr. Meeker give us some ideas here about scheduling. And, we can kind of use some of this as examples if we need to, as far as showing the different types of exams. But Dr. Meeker, what did you do in your practice for scheduling?
Well, the first step, it seems obvious, but you've got to pre-appoint your patients. The culture in the practice needs to be that you plan to take care of each patient's eye health and vision forever. There's a few components to this to make it work. Number one, the doc has to tell the patient that they want to see them in X number of months again or next year. Number two, that's got to be communicated somehow. You can do that a lot of times through your EHR, or you can do it on a routing slip. I don't care how you do it, but when they get to the sign out area, that has to be obvious to the person signing them out. And that sign out person has to just follow a real simple script. Doesn't have to be anything difficult. Just, Mrs. Jones, Dr. X wants to see you again in a year. What time of day and what day of the week are most convenient for you? That's really the crux of getting people to come back in a year, come back when you want them. You're taking care of them and your schedule is full. You also have to have a system, of course, to remind them of the upcoming appointments. So a month out, we would send a notice, and then we start with the real confirmation end of it 1 to 3 days in advance, depending on your office, what your policy is for that. I like using some of the new software systems that are out there, such as Demandforce or Solution Reach. Your staff is busy, your patients are busy. If they can confirm via text and email, it just makes things so much easier.
And, so many of our other doctor's offices are doing that now. And I always say I'm kind of a visual. So, what you mean is when I come in for my complete exam, when I go up to the front desk to check out, they're automatically going to schedule me, 1 year. And if you just say, what's a good time, not ask, do you want to schedule your next appointment? Just say, what about, I know when I go to my, primary care physician, it's, we need you to come back in 6 months. How about Wednesday at 3:30?
Exactly right.
Every doctor I've ever been to, it's kind of like pretty standard language for the staff to say, okay, doctor wants to see you back in 6 months. Let's find a date that's right for you. It's not, a conversation. It's actually the doctor wants to see you back in 6 months. It's not even a choice. And it doesn't matter what kind of doctor you go to, that's pretty much what's said. It really takes the element of should I or shouldn't I out of it, right? Doctor wants to see you back in 6 months.
Yeah, and honestly, the most common thing that might come up from the negative would be, oh, geez, I don't know what my schedule is going to be like next year. And our response is just simply, oh, don't worry about it, Mrs. Jones. We're going to send you a reminder a month in advance, and there'll be plenty of opportunity to reschedule at a convenient time for you.
Yeah, and exactly. You word it as, hey, this is just a placeholder, and it's very flexible. So if you need to come in earlier or later, that's understandable. But we want to put our placeholders in to make sure that there is an opportunity to take care of you.
Right.
So the questions I usually get asked, when I'm talking with doctors and things on this particular situation is, what do you do? Do you track your no-shows or your cancellations or your slots that are open? Can you give us a little more details on some of that?
Yeah. So, we actually, again, my optician actually did it. He just volunteered to do it, but he would keep track of the number of patients that no-showed or same day canceled. It was in the electronic health record, so it was easy for him to do, but he would actually do the spreadsheet about it. And, one of the ways to cut down on that is flag patients that are sort of notorious for canceling on the same day, or they've had no shows in the past. Most EHRs will let you do a history of patient appointments. And so we had patients that we would flag, And for those people, you had to get a solid confirmation from them. And we would start a little earlier, maybe 3 days ahead of time. And if we didn't reach that particular patient, we would double book that slot. And we would make sure that if they did show up, that we would say, hey, we weren't able to get hold of you. So, we can't let this keep happening. What's a more convenient way to get a hold of you? Can we text you, for instance? So
there are moments when, we use the expression fire the patient, right? We hate to do it. There are some people that are really, really bad, especially the ones that, you book the whole family and 3 years running, the whole family cancels out. And at that point, you're like, what am I doing here?
right.
So there's no question. We each have to have a little finesse and how to have those conversations and how to manage through it. Absolutely.
We actually instituted a fee for no-shows and same-day cancellations. And the way we did it is we had each patient sign something when they came in. So that automatically tells them we're serious about recalls and showing up. And then what we would do is if there was one offense, we would not charge them the first time. So we'd let it slide. But you're right. There are some patients for whom you're better off not seeing them anymore.
Yeah.
So.
And it's interesting about tracking, Patty, because I love the conversation about tracking the cancellations and the no-shows that, if everybody just printed out their schedule for the day, it's such a simple thing to do. And so much can come out of that morning huddle. So first of all, if you print out the schedule for the day before the day starts, you can see who's coming in, what plans they have. You could look up what products or services they received last time they were in. You could be prepared for when the patient gets there versus, being reactive when the patient gets there. It's just like Dr. Meek, I'm sure when you're walking in the lane and you look at a patient's file, you knew 80% of the results before the exam started, right? You were just tweaking in the end there because you read the file. And
Absolutely.
unless they were brand new and you never met them before, you pretty much had an idea of where it was going to go unless something exceptional happened. But the rest of our staff doesn't do that. And that's such a critical component of keeping a loyal relationship and making sure our patients are taking advantage of everything they're entitled to is to be prepared. Hey, Mrs. Jones, I know that you got this frame with your VSB coverage last year. Oh, I see you have IMED this year. Let me show you what the differences are. And engage, but be prepared instead of sitting down and saying, oh, okay, let's see what you got and let's figure out what we're going to do today. Oh my God, I hate that conversation, right? Because it tells me that you don't know anything about me yet, right? You're using my time to learn about me when you should have had that information. So I love to print out that schedule sheet, have my staff do that morning huddle. I also love to use it to check off, the cancellations or no-shows. And also there's another area that I love to use it for, and that is to check off of everybody on that schedule, which patients actually made it to the optical. And that's a whole different number to think about. So if you had 20 patients come in that got refractions on a given day, so you're basing your conversion rate on those 20 patients. But of those 20 patients, only 10 of them actually went into the optical. Now, you could sit back and say, of the 10 that went in, 5 of them got eyeglasses. That's a 50% conversion rate, right? Or you could say 20 patients came in, we sold 5, and that's only a 25% conversion rate, right? That's 2 different types of numbers to look at. I like both. To me, both are important. And I always would do it by printing out the schedule sheet, make a note of who actually went into the optical, and then sit down with the staff and see the folks that didn't go to the optical and find out why.
Right? We did that same thing, and it caused us to have an office policy where every patient that had a comprehensive exam or a refraction, if you want to call it, went to the optical, regardless. That was just the policy of the office. Now, what's important about that, in my opinion, is in those cases where maybe the patient was reluctant, maybe they'd already made up their mind, and maybe you didn't change their mind, you still need to give them some benefit for doing that. So you need to go over their plan with them, give them that information. You need to see what they brought in. We had the front desk make sure that people brought in any glasses that they used. Mm-hmm. And so you want to adjust those glasses, clean them up a bit, talk to them. They need to get some benefit out of that visit, because next time around, or when they break their frame 6 months down the road, you want them to come back to you. And
Right.
if they went to the optician and they just kind of blew them off and didn't spend much time with them, they're not going to come back to your optical the next time.
Yeah, really good point. Really good point. Listen, there always has to be a value proposition.
And it's amazing when you think about it. Most people would never say scheduling would have anything to do with my EBITDA, but it has everything to do with it. You know, when you really
100%
bring it back
right.
around, that this is what we're talking about, you know,
Right.
the areas that we need to do to improve that EBITDA. You know, we've got to monitor, we've got to track. You know, you were asking kind of what's the low hanging fruit usually for most offices, and we were kind of discussing that it was frames. You know, we've got to know the vision plans. You know, we've got to have a full schedule, and they need to be coming to the dispensary. You know, the last piece of all of this is really to bring our staff in. You know, we need to talk about having, you know, office meetings, staff performance, you know, some of the things that we're going to do there.